Welcome to Richie Shot.
Welcome to Richie Shot. Today we will see together what is moving markets, and we will begin with Powell because it is Jackson Hole Day. Let's dive in. All eyes are on Jackson Hole Symposium. The U.S. bond market is heading into a decisive week. All eyes are on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who will take the stage Friday at the annual Jackson Hole Symposium. For years, this high-profile gathering of central bankers has been a platform for policy signals that can shake global markets. This time, the stakes feel even higher. Powell's message will be closely parsed for clues about whether the Fed is ready to begin cutting rates as soon as September. Investors believe a quarter-point cut is nearly locked in. The case has grown stronger after weaker jobs data, and markets are already betting on at least one more move before year-end. Yet inflation remains sticky, and stronger than expected readings have kept some economists cautious. Powell now faces the delicate task of reassuring markets while underscoring that the fight against inflation isn't over. The timeline is clear. The next jobs report arrives September 5th. The Fed's rate decision follows on September 17th. German economy to contract. Bloomberg's report says Germany's economy contracted more sharply than initially estimated in the second quarter of 2025, according to final data published by the Federal Statistical Office, Destatis. Preliminary figures released at the end of July had pointed to a 0.1% decline in seasonally and calendar-adjusted gross domestic product compared with the previous quarter. However, the final estimate, issued on August 22, revised that figure to a 0.3% contraction. It marks the first quarterly decline for Europe's largest economy in a year. Economists surveyed by Bloomberg had expected a 0.1% drop, highlighting that the downturn was deeper than market forecasts suggested. The weaker-than-expected result underscores the fragile state of Germany's recovery as slowing global demand and persistent inflation continue to weigh on output. On an annual basis, Destatis reported that GDP, adjusted for seasonal and calendar effects, fell by 0.2%. Earlier preliminary data had suggested no change compared with the same period last year. Bloomberg's separate poll of 12 economists had also anticipated flat growth rather than contraction. The revision signals renewed pressure on policymakers to stabilize the German economy, which has struggled to regain momentum after last year's stagnation. Analysts note that the gap between early estimates and final figures reflects ongoing volatility in the economic outlook, reinforcing concerns that growth may remain under strain in the months ahead. Google and Meta have reached an agreement. For 6 years. According to CNBC, Meta has reached a multi-billion-dollar agreement with Google to use its cloud services. People familiar with the matter said the contract, valued at more than $10 billion, will run over 6 years. The arrangement was first reported by The Information. The deal reflects Google's push to secure large-scale cloud contracts as it tries to gain ground on Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure, the dominant players in the sector. Earlier this year, Google signed a cloud agreement with OpenAI, which had previously relied heavily on Microsoft's infrastructure. In July, Alphabet reported that Google Cloud generated $13.6 billion in revenue for the second quarter, with operating income of $2.83 billion. That marked revenue growth of 32%, well above the company's overall pace of 13.8%. One of the sources told CNBC that the Meta-Google agreement centers primarily on artificial intelligence infrastructure. In its earnings report last month, Meta projected expenses for 2025 in the range of $114 billion to $118 billion. A significant portion of that spending is earmarked for AI, expanding the Llama family of models and embedding artificial intelligence across its products and services. The agreement also highlights the complex dynamic between Meta and Google. The companies are fierce competitors in online advertising, yet Meta requires all the cloud resources it can secure. In addition to its own data centers, Meta has committed to using services from both Amazon and Microsoft. Google declined to comment on the reported deal. NVIDIA to suspend H2O production. According to CNBC, NVIDIA has instructed several of its suppliers to pause work on components tied to its H2O graphics processing units, chips designed specifically for the Chinese market. The move comes after Beijing ordered domestic tech firms to stop purchasing the processors, citing national security risks, according to a report from The Information. People familiar with the matter said NVIDIA asked Arizona-based Amkor Technology, responsible for advanced packaging of the H2O, and South Korea's Samsung Electronics, which provides memory for the chip, to halt production. Both companies did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment. In a separate report, Reuters said NVIDIA had also asked Foxconn, officially known as Honhai, to suspend related work. Foxconn has not commented. When contacted by CNBC, an NVIDIA spokesperson said, "Thoughtful, we constantly manage our supply chain to address market conditions." The development further clouds the future of the H2O in China. Earlier this year, Washington announced it would grant export licenses to permit shipments of the chip to China after sales had been blocked in April. But the regulatory climate has only grown more uncertain. Last month, the Cyberspace Administration of China summoned NVIDIA to provide information on the H2O amid fears the processors could contain tracking tools or hidden backdoors that might allow remote control. Concerns over security have also surfaced in the U.S. In May, Republican Senator Tom Cotton and a bipartisan group of House lawmakers introduced the Chip Security Act, requiring chip makers to include safeguards and location verification features in advanced AI semiconductors. OpenAI to open office in India? OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, plans to establish its first office in India later this year, choosing New Delhi as its base. The move marks a major step in expanding its presence in its second largest market by user numbers. Backed by Microsoft, OpenAI confirmed it is already registered as a legal entity in the country and has begun building a local team, according to a statement shared with Reuters on Friday. The company said India is a key growth market, pointing to the country's nearly 1 billion internet users. Just this week, OpenAI introduced its most affordable subscription plan yet in India, priced at $4.60 per month. The launch is aimed at making ChatGPT more accessible to a wider audience across the world's most populous nation, where affordability is seen as central to scaling adoption. The expansion comes as OpenAI faces mounting legal scrutiny in the country. Several news organizations and publishing houses have accused the firm of using their material without permission to train ChatGPT. The company has rejected these allegations and maintains that its practices comply with the law. By opening an office in New Delhi, OpenAI is signaling long-term commitment to the Indian market, betting that growth opportunities outweigh the legal and regulatory risks it faces.